Bhajanaranjana Jamunatirambanachari Jamunatirambanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Madhava Radhe Jaya Radha Madhava Radhe Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Gaur Premanandi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nasta Praishvabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Utama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki We are reading this morning from Canto 11, Chapter 3, Text 23. Sarvato manaso sangam adel sangam cha sadhushu dayam maitrim prashrayam cha bhuteshvadha yatochitam sarvato manaso sangam adel sangam cha sadhushu dayam maitrim prashrayam cha bhuteshvadha yatochitam. Please chant. Sarvato manaso sangam Sangam sadhusu
Sarvato manaso sangam ado sangam cha sadhushu daya maitrim prashayam cha bhuteshvadha yatochitam.
Matajis, you would like to chant? Okay. Sarvatam, everywhere. Manasa, of the mind. Asangam, detachment. Adao, in the beginning. Sangam, association. Cha, and. Sadhusu, with saintly persons. Dayam, mercy. Maitrim, friendship. Prashrayam, reverence. Cha, and. Bhuteshu, for all living beings. Adha, thus. Yata uchitam, as is suitable. Translation. A sincere disciple should learn to dissociate the mind from everything material and positively cultivate association with his spiritual master and other saintly devotees. He should be merciful to those in an inferior position to him, cultivate friendship with those on an equal level, and meekly serve those in a higher spiritual position. Thus he should learn to deal properly with all living beings. Please repeat. A sincere disciple should learn to dissociate the mind from everything material and positively cultivate association with his spiritual master and other saintly devotees. He should be merciful to those in an inferior position, cultivate friendship with those on an equal level, and meekly serve those in a higher spiritual position. Thus he should learn to deal properly with all living beings. Purport. Srila Madhvacharya has quoted from the Garuda Purana to demonstrate that within this universe, those who take birth as demigods, as great rishis, or pious human beings are all considered santaha, or saintly persons. According to Bhagavad Gita, Trigunya Vishaya Veda, the Varnashram culture described in Vedic literature deals mainly with the living entities who are struggling within the three modes of nature. The Vedic literatures teach such conditioned souls that material happiness can be achieved only through pious works. In this sense, the demigods are to be considered the most pious living entities within the three modes of material nature. The rishis, or great saintly mystics of the universe, who are able to travel at will to various planets and who cultivate mystic powers, are to be considered somewhat below the demigods. And those human beings on earth who perfectly execute Vedic rituals are to be considered the third or lowest category of santa, or saintly persons. But a devotee of Krishna is beyond the three modes of material nature. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Mam chayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate, sagunan samatityaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service, who does not fall down in any circumstance, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. Thus Lord Krishna clearly says that a Vaishnava who does not fall down from the regulations of Bhakti Yoga is beyond the three modes of nature. And Lord Krishna advised Arjuna, a Krishna Bhakta, to transcend the modes of material qualities to transcend the three material qualities of the illusory creation of Maya, Nistrigunya Bhavarjuna. But in the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, Natad asti prativyam cha devi devishu vapuna sattvam prakriti jayara muktam yad ebhi syat tribhir gunai. There is no being existing, either here or among the demigods in the higher planetary systems, who is free from the three modes of material nature. Thus the demigods are not exempt from the pollution of the three modes of material nature, whereas a pure devotee actually becomes gunatita, or transcendental, to the influence of Maya. Therefore, one should cultivate the association of the Uttama Adhikari, or pure devotee of the Lord, as stated previously in the two verses before, Tasmad Gurum Prapadyeta Jigyasu Shreyam Uttamam, Shabde Para Nishnatam Brahman Upashamashrayam. Therefore, any person who seriously desires real happiness must seek a bona fide spiritual master and take shelter of him by initiation. The qualification of the bona fide guru is that he has realized the conclusions of the scriptures by deliberation and is able to convince others of those conclusions. Such great personalities who have taken shelter of the Supreme Godhead, leaving aside all material considerations, should be understood to be bona fide spiritual masters. On the other hand, one should avoid the association of materialistic persons, even if such a person is outwardly chanting the holy name of Krishna. Srila Rupa Goswami has advised in this respect, Krishneti yasya giritam manasendriyeta dikshasti chit pranatabi sabajantam isham shushushaya bhajana vidyanaganya anya nindati shunyam hridam ipshiti sangalabdhya. One may mentally offer respect to any living entity who is chanting the holy name of Krishna, but one should avoid intimate association with materialistic persons, especially those attached to sex enjoyment. Tamodoram yoshita sangi sangam. If one associates with a sensuous person who is attached to the company of the opposite sex, by such association one will surely go to hell. I'm going to stop there for a moment. My very learned godbrother Hridayananda Maharaj has commented extensively on this verse. The topic, though, of the verse is so germane, I want to really focus on the translation, if we could go back. Translation, please. Yes. So a sincere disciple should learn to dissociate the mind from everything material and positively cultivate association with the spiritual master and other saintly devotees. You should be merciful to those in an inferior position, cultivate friendship with those on an equal level, and meekly serve those in a higher spiritual position. Thus he should learn to deal properly with all living beings. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Charane Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatgade Shatarane Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. When Maharaj Parikshit was cursed to die by Shringi, the foolish young Brahmin, he did not fight the curse, but he went to the banks of the Ganga, where there were many saintly persons, demigods, and others who had gathered to see what would happen. Shringi's father was very upset because without the protection of a good king, the whole society becomes disturbed. And so this is the dramatic moment at which King Parikshit arrived at the bank of the Ganga and said, "My dear sages, everyone present, please bless me with three things. I would like to have your the devotional service of Krishna. I would like to have the association of devotees. And I would like to be friendly to all living beings. These are my only requests." So, similarly, when Krishna was visiting Mathura, he was approached by a humble garland maker named Sudama. And Sudama gave him a garland that was even bigger than this one. Beautiful garland. And Krishna was very pleased with this. So he said, "I grant you any benediction that you would like. What would you like?" Now, Sudama was a very humble person, just a garland maker, making a very modest living. But when he was asked, first he declined, and the Lord said, "No, please, take some benediction." So he said, "All right, please give me three things. Please give me the privilege of devotional service. And please give me the association of devotees. And please help me be friendly to all living beings." Same three benedictions. So this verse echoes that same sentiment, in that in order to associate, or in order to perform devotional service for Krishna, what do we need? You need devotees, and specifically what? How do we connect with Krishna? Service as given by whom? By the spiritual master, yes. So devotional service is the great gift of the spiritual master. And then, in order to maintain our Krishna consciousness, we need what? We need association of devotees. Yes, Srila Prabhupada once said that if somebody feels they can be Krishna conscious without the association of devotees, they are living a hallucination. And finally, they prayed to be friendly to all living beings. So, in a sense, this encompasses everybody that exists, right? We need our spiritual master, we need the association of devotees, and then we need to know how to be friendly and deal properly with everyone else. In order to, as said in the verse, to dissociate the mind from everything material, one must have these three levels of association. If we are not associating properly with any of these three levels, with our superiors, our peers, or our juniors, then we are acting under the modes of nature, and our minds will be disturbed. Have you experienced this? If you get in an argument with somebody, if you have some disagreement with somebody, you know how it eats you up? It consumes the mind all the time, isn't it? We get very disturbed. And this is because of the influence of the false ego, where we are identifying with our minds and our bodies. That is what causes so much disturbance and interrupts our good association. There was this upcoming story about the Avanti Brahmin. So the Avanti Brahmin was a very miserly man. He was very wealthy, And everyone in the village knew him. He would do anything necessary to exploit people and make money. So nobody liked him very much. And then somehow, by reverses of fortune, he lost all of his money. And then when he lost all his money, everybody was secretly very glad. His family, his loving family, no longer had any need for him because he could not provide for them. So they rejected him. This is also described in the 10th canto, I believe, right? Harishe tadhanam shanai. Krishna says, the first installment of my mercy on someone is I take away all their money. Because when they have no money, then their family and friends have no interest in them anymore. Devotional service is a tough product to sell, isn't it? The Mayavadis have a big advantage. They say, come, we'll teach you how to be God. Everybody has always underappreciated you, but we will teach you who you really are. Oh, yes, this and we say, yes, come, chant Hare Krishna, and we will give you eternal servitude. It is Krishna's mercy when a person is put in a difficult position. So this happened to the Avanti Brahmin. But because of these tremendous reverses of fortune, he changed completely. He genuinely became humble. And he genuinely became enlightened. And he genuinely saw the futility of material life. And so he resolved to simply remain in his village and just beg. And of course, all the people who previously knew him as someone who exploited them, they were all too happy to see him beg. And they were all too happy not to give him any alms. And not only that, they would take his begging bowl. And if he got something to eat, they would steal that. And in this way, and even if sometimes they would urinate on his food, just to cause him trouble. So the Avanti Brahmin was very challenged by this. But because of his deep realization, he had a very profound conclusion. He said, what is the cause of my suffering? Is it these people? No. Is it the demigods? No. Is it the stars, astrological effects? No. Is it my own karma? No. The only cause of my suffering is what? My mind. It is the way I am interpreting my environment. It is the way I am processing what is happening to me. And because I listen to my mind, therefore I'm sometimes liking and sometimes not liking. So to dissociate oneself from the mind means that. It means that when our mind reacts to something, we can recognize this is the mind. It is not because of the external things that are happening. It is because the mind does not approve. So with this, the Avanti Brahmin became very blissful with this realization, and nothing perturbed him anymore. So when we look at the last of these three admonitions or injunctions from this verse, to be friendly with everybody. This is one of the qualities of a devotee. Friendly with everybody. Even the enemy. Right? So we were talking last night about how the mind is the enemy. But that's a misunderstanding. We should not make an enemy out of our mind. What does Krishna say we should do with our mind? Make friends with our mind. Do we make friends with somebody by fighting? How do we make friends with somebody? We have to accept them as they are, right? Not as we would like them to be. We have to accept them as they are. Then we can be friendly. Just a little digression, I want to share a wonderful story with you. Has anyone ever heard this album called the Radha Krishna Temple album? It was made by devotees in London with George Harrison. It has the Govindam prayers and many other beautiful bhajans. So that the devotees it was amazing. You know, they got from nothing, they were suddenly in recording with the most famous musicians in the world, just by Krishna's arrangement. And so they were recording the Hare Krishna mantra, and they were recording Bhaja Baka Tavat, and several other beautiful songs. So in this recording studio, the mixing was going on late into the evening. So they'd make a recording, and then in the studio they would try to put pieces of it together to sound very nice. So this was going on late into the night, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. The devotees had to stay in case they had to record something again. So all the devotees were just crashed out around the studio. It looked like the Brahmachari ashram, sleeping everywhere. But Jamuna Prabhu, who was a very dear disciple of Srila Prabhupada, and had been there in London from the beginning, she went to the harmonium and just started chanting a bhajan. It wasn't to be recorded, she was just chanting to meditate. In those days, there was no songbook with all the bhajans in them. All there were some recordings of Srila Prabhupada singing the bhajans. So Jamuna, during the difficult days in London, was listening to this bhajan over and over and over again, just listening to Srila Prabhupada chanting when she was experiencing distress and difficulty. So she sat down at the harmonium and began chanting, Bhaja Mana Hure. Have you heard this? Sri Nandanandana Abhay Charana Ravindure. She was singing from memory. She'd never even seen it written down. And she had no idea it was being recorded. But George Harrison was sitting in the studio, and he was recording it. And then when she finished, he came out and said, all right, this is going on the album. And she said, what? Then he just added a little percussion, a little hand clapping, and it was on. You've heard this, yeah? So, of course, the actual words from Govindadas are Bhaja Hure Mana. But she was singing Bhaja Mana Hure. So then later she was riding in the car with Srila Prabhupada, and recording was playing. And Prabhupada turned around and looked. And said, oh, you have gotten the words wrong. And she said, yes, Prabhupada. And she didn't explain. She would never explain herself. This is what it means to deal meekly with a superior. That even if we are chastised unfairly, we don't protest. It's very difficult for the false ego. But she did not protest. She just said, yes, Srila Prabhupada, we will correct that. And Prabhupada thought for a moment, he said, no, it is all right. So, that my dear mind, this is how Govinda is addressing his mind. Not my stupid mind, my darn mind, my cursed mind. He's saying, my dear mind, please worship the son of Nanda Maharaj. Yes, if we're going to make friends, we have to accept our mind as it is and not try to fight it. Srila Prabhupada in 1962 was working in Radha Damodar temple on the Srimad Bhagavatam. He was typing on a typewriter probably many of you have never even seen. A typewriter where you had to hit each key very hard. Hare Krishna, Jai Radha Madhava, Jai Kornitai, Jai Sitaram Lakshman Hanuma. To type on a manual typewriter, you must strike very hard, and if you make a mistake, pull out the paper and start again. And then they invented something called whiteout, where if you made a mistake, you could pull up the paper, put a little white on it, and let it dry, and then try to hit the right letter, if you can get it in the right place. But this was even before that was invented. So Prabhupada was typing all of this Srimad Bhagavatam manuscripts, the verses, the synonyms, translations, and purports that we read in the first canto. But during this time, somehow, on top of that, he decided to put the Bhagavad Gita into poetry, into Bengali poetry, all 700 verses. He would do a piece and then send it to his godbrother who had a Bengali magazine, and they would publish excerpts in a serial fashion. So later, when Srila Prabhupada started ISKCON and Bhaktivedanta Book Trust, he somehow got all of these manuscripts and collected them in a book called Gitargan, which is the entire Bhagavad Gita in this Bengali poetry. Every verse is set to meter and run. So that was amazing that he was doing this at the same time he's doing Srimad Bhagavatam and having no support at all. But when he published that book, it became it's very, very popular in Bengal. Lakhs and lakhs of copies have been distributed in Bengal and Bangladesh. To many people, it is the Bhagavad Gita. So he did not write any purports to this Bhagavad Gita, but he wove in some commentary in his poetic translation. So it's a very different book than the Bhagavad Gita as it is. His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj, some years ago, in honor of Prabhupada's centennial, put all of these verses to music with the help of some professional musicians and sang all of the verses in Bengali for Prabhupada's centennial celebration in 1996. And he also published the book with translations from the Bhagavad Gita as it is. But the book had never been translated into English. So my friend Krishna Prabhu from Kaalkantha and I took this project and we published a translation, the entire translation in English for the first time, Gitargan. It is available on Amazon if you'd like to get a copy. But one of the amazing examples of Srila Prabhupada's commentary on the Gita was from this 6th chapter, and where Krishna says one should similarly dissociate oneself from things material by controlling the mind. And then he says, and I'll just say it in the English poetry, a friendship with the mind makes this much easier to do, for otherwise the mind is like Hiranyakashipu. Do you remember Hiranyakashipu in the Bhagavad Gita? No, Krishna did not mention. But this was Prabhupada's analogy, that if we make the mind an enemy, it is a ferocious enemy like Hiranyakashipu. Therefore, a friendship with the mind is advised. So in simple terms, this means self-acceptance, that we accept ourselves as we are. We are spirit souls with a conditioned mind. We are spirit souls with a long history of being misidentified with the body. And in spite of that, Krishna accepts us. He's so kind. In spite of that, our spiritual master accepts us. He's so kind. In this way, we can make friends with our mind by accepting ourselves and not feeling like we have to change ourselves in order to be devotees of Krishna. The change is not in our power to implement. If we could change ourselves to pure devotees, we would have done that a long time ago, right? But Krishna says, Sutta Goswami says, right? Shrindvatam swakata Krishna punya shravana kirtana Hridyantaksto hyabadrani virunoti saritatam. All the abhadra, all the inauspicious things in the heart are cleansed by the dynamic presence of Krishna, who manifest in the hearts of those who are hearing and chanting of his message. Yeah? So Krishna is the dynamic factor, not us. Krishna makes the changes, not us. And that is also important in our spiritual life because it's freedom from false ego, thinking that we're the doer. We're going to turn ourselves into pure devotees. One time, in the very early days of ISKCON, Srila Prabhupada, he started with no association. Can you imagine? He went to this strange country, first time ever out of India. And he had no money to advertise, no money to impress people. He was just depending on Krishna. So there, after all, various adventures, trying this, trying that, this didn't work, that didn't work. He ended up with this little place on the Lower East Side of New York. And there he began holding classes regularly because he realized that was necessary. People had to hear regularly, not a lecture here or there. So when young men and women started approaching him, they started taking interest. They had many horrific habits and many conditionings. And Prabhupada looked right past that, and he saw this little bit of interest in Krishna that they had. And so he was fanning that little spark into a blazing fire. And he'd never asked them, "You please change your life dramatically." He didn't ask the men to shave their heads. He didn't ask the women to wear saris. He didn't ask anyone to put on tilak. He just said, "Please chant. Just chant. Just add Krishna to your life." As Rupa Goswami said, "Yena tena prakarina mana Krishna naveshaya." Somehow or other, think about Krishna and the rules can come later. Even the first initiation that Prabhupada did, can you imagine? He initiated 10 disciples without even saying anything about the regulative principles. He gave them their spiritual names and their beads. They did agree to chant 16 rounds, but nothing about regulative principles. And so after the initiation, one of the new disciples asked, "Now that we're initiated, are there any rules we should follow?" And Srila Prabhupada said, "I am very glad you are finally asking that question." So then he wrote out the rules for initiated devotees and posted them in the storefront. So the point is that the active principle of Krishna in the heart is what changes us, not our own endeavor. This is part of self-acceptance, that we are just putting ourselves in a position to be purified by Krishna. When Krishna will do that, that's up to him. But we have the responsibility of chanting and following the regulative principles, because that is our vow, and that is our guidance from Srila Prabhupada. The minimum that we need. Well, simple thing. Srila Prabhupada said, "I could have had millions of followers if I'd simply eliminated these regulative principles." But no, better to have quality. Quality is better than quantity, because actually quality will change the hearts of others. In other words, the more that we allow Krishna to work through us, the more we can affect the lives of other people, not by our own endeavor, but because we are actually vessels for Krishna to work through. When we have that fortunate position, then we can very easily remember these 3 tiers of association. That we are naturally respectful to advanced devotees through whom Krishna is working, and we are naturally eager to have association with others in our position because we will gain strength from them. Just a word about that. You ever see the birds flying through the sky in a V formation? You know why they do that? It's a matter of physics, actually. That the bird in front is pushing down, and that creates an updraft for the one behind. So they are lifted by the efforts of the one in front. And so all of the birds in that line are getting lifted by the flapping of the one in front. And the one in the very front, he gets no lift. So he's working very hard. And sometimes you hear them flying through the sky, they're honk, 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 making noise. You know what they're saying? They're saying, "Good job, Prabhu, keep going." And then they will rotate in the leadership role. So they take turns. So in this way, just through this strength, they fly together. And if one of them goes down, there's nothing the others can do. But so long as they are trying and they're together, they're progressing. See, so this is the sadhu sangha, the association of devotees. We get strength from each other. We give strength just by being there, and we get strength from others. See, so we fly together. Then, having found the association of devotees and having the proper connection with our guru, then we can actually be at peace with ourselves within, and then we can be friendly to everybody else. We don't judge other people. We don't look down on other people. We're just there to help other people if they are interested in awakening their spiritual life. We don't have any ulterior motive. We don't need people to take up Krishna consciousness because we need their money. We don't need people to take up Krishna consciousness because we want them to validate our decision to be devotees. We just want to give this great gift selflessly. And as much as people want to take it, then we will give and give and give. Because giving Krishna consciousness is blissful, as anybody who does it knows. It's very blissful, it's very satisfying, it's very fulfilling. Why? Because Krishna is pleased when we're sharing his message. Nachatasmin manuseshu kashchan me priyakritama. No one is more dear, Krishna says, than one who shares the message of Bhagavad Gita. So then, the course of our spiritual life begins when we start chanting. It ripens when we accept ourselves and stop trying to be something we're not. And it fructifies when we feel genuine compassion to others and help them intelligently. In regards to this point about just being who we are, one of my godbrothers, Satsvarup Goswami, who was Steve, Bhakta Steve, came to Srila Prabhupada in his first days as a devotee and asked a very sincere question. He said, Swamiji, what kind of person does Krishna want us to be? What kind of person does Krishna want us to be? How do you think Srila Prabhupada replied? Any idea? This is in the Prabhupada Lilamrita. Yeah. Prabhupada simply smiled at him and said, "You are very sincere." That was it. Now what does that mean? Prabhupada is saying, as if you could be somebody other than who you are. I'm willing, this young devotee was saying, to change my whole personality. And Prabhupada just smiled and said, it's very nice that you're that willing, but you cannot do that. So we accept ourselves knowing that it's not in our power to make these changes. Then we can be at peace. And when we're at peace, then we can help others also. So in this regard, final point, what is the end result of a life lived in Krishna consciousness? We all want to stay in Krishna consciousness, right? Yes? Help me out here. Yes. If we can simply stay, then Krishna will be able to act from within to help us advance. It's like Srila Prabhupada once said, he was asked, what would your mother say if she could see you here today? As a guru, as a founder of ISKCON. What would your mother say? Prabhupada smiled and said, she would simply be glad to see that I am still alive. So this is the point. If we simply stay in Krishna consciousness, we stay alive in Krishna consciousness, this will be very pleasing to our guru, to our friends, to everybody. It's a beautiful thing. Growing old is one of the miseries of material life, the inevitable miseries. And once Srila Prabhupada was asked, can you tell me my future? And he said to the man, yes, you will grow old and die. So the misery of growing old inflicts itself on us all. However, to grow old in Krishna consciousness is a wonderful thing. Why? Because more and more Krishna acts in a way to purify us. And because we are consistent in our practice, then Krishna reciprocates consistently. And that realization that we're not this body comes, and it becomes more of a shelter than a philosophical idea, because the body starts falling apart. I was just at a gathering with some of my godbrothers in Mayapur, and most of us are in our 70s, even 80s. The body is falling apart in different ways. One thing I'm just going to mention, that a lot of my godbrothers are suffering from hearing loss. Yes, and that kirtan back there was definitely hearing loss grade. So you might consider maybe a cappella without instruments, or just madanga, maybe take easy on the whoppers, the gong, in that echo chamber. Ooh. One devotee asked, well, but kirtan is transcendental. And my godbrother Jayadvaita Maharaj said, yes, and your hearing loss will also be transcendental. Anyway, the ears, the eyes, the teeth, the nose even, the ability to smell and taste diminishes. The, what to speak of the joints and the ability to even lift your arms or walk. All that, imagine you're going to lose all of these things if you are so fortunate to not die prematurely. Such is the nature of this world. And with every piece of the body that fails, things that you never thought twice about, you know, your colon, your pancreas, you never even, they're just working away. They always work away. And then they stop working all of a sudden. And you have to take this and that, try to patch it together, plug it. All of this serves to just underscore the philosophy that we've been reading. And it helps us internalize the message of Srimad Bhagavatam. So it's almost amusing to see. But especially when we leave this body, that's when our lifetime of practicing Krishna consciousness really bears fruit. And I've had the amazing experience to see many of my godbrothers or other devotees leaving their bodies at different stages. It is truly amazing, because we read about pure devotional service, right? Where there's nothing in our mind whatsoever except Krishna. We read about that and we think, yes, that's what I want to aspire for. So when Krishna takes everything else away, you can't even speak or move. You still have Krishna. And that's when the mind becomes very focused on Krishna. And devotees who are not really all that advanced become very advanced at the end of life. Very advanced, where there's nothing they want to do or hear about but Krishna. And this is the perfection of life, isn't it? As Krishna explains in chapter 8 of the Gita, that to leave this body thinking of me transcends all other considerations. And so, we're very good in ISKCON, we're very good at two things. We're very good at cooking, and we're very good at dying. Hopefully not at the same time. So before we give up this body and we kind of get the benefit of a lifetime spent in Krishna consciousness, it's very good to give back. Right? It's very important to give back to those people on whom we want to have compassion. As Bhaktivinoda Thakur prays, Kabi Habi Bolo Se Dinamore. When will that day be mine when I will actually take up the service of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? So in 1975, I was fortunate to be with Srila Prabhupada and many devotees in Mayapur, and Prabhupada was speaking on the Chaitanya Charitamrita. It had just been published, and so he was speaking one day on each verse from the Adi Leela, on chapter 1. The 7th chapter had been published previously as a single book, Lord Chaitanya in 5 features, but now the whole thing was out. So 13th day of the lecture series was on verse 13, Advaita Acharya. And so Prabhupada began explaining the meaning. Advaita means non-dual. He is non-different from Krishna. And Acharya means one who is teaching the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. And he began to elaborate on the meaning of Acharya. 3 things specifically. Acharya means one who knows the philosophy practices the philosophy, and teaches the philosophy. That, he said, is acharya. Then he looked out at us. There were about 200 of us in the room, mostly with mismatched socks and dysentery. And he said, so we have how many acharyas in our movement? 10,000? 10,000 shall become 100,000. 100,000 shall become 1 million. And 1 million will become 10 million. And there will be no scarcity of acharyas. Then he said, this is not difficult to be an acharya. You just follow your acharya, and soon enough you will get the opportunity. So then he instructed us all. He said, so you are young, you organize this. I am old, I have no opportunity. And then he did something very, very unusual that happened only a few times in his whole manifest pastimes. He went into an ecstatic trance in public. And he just stopped speaking. So all of us were sitting there. It was very quiet. We did not know what to do. But this vision of 10 million acharyas put him in ecstasy. So for about 2 minutes, we all sat there. It seemed much longer. And then a devotee picked up a madanga and started a kirtan. Prabhupada chanted a little, and then that was the end of the class. So you can hear this tape. It's on the ISKCON Desire Tree collection, April 6, 1975. Adi Leela 113. So that experience has made a very deep impression on me over the years, because Prabhupada wanted 10 million acharyas. And we have 100 after almost 50 years from that time. Well, of course, in a general sense, we have many acharyas, but what he envisioned was that each of us would bring 10 people to Krishna consciousness. That was the idea. After Prabhupada's disappearance, there was a lot of confusion about what it means to be a guru. And that confusion lingers to this day. And the effects of that confusion is we mostly restrict people. No. You can't do it, or you can't do it for this reason or that reason. Because we don't want anyone to be a guru in ISKCON and then fall down. That would be too embarrassing. You see? So, therefore, very few people do it. And then when people do it, this is such an unusual person. And there's a big hullabaloo and a big kirtan, and some people don't like that. They don't want to be the center of attention. Even though they're doing it for Krishna, it's awkward, it's unpleasant. So therefore, let me not do it. One of my godbrothers suggested, why don't you initiate disciples? And I answered with 3 magic words that everybody says. You know what they are? If somebody asked you to initiate disciples, what would you say? Oh, you're all ready? What?
I have to take their sins. I have to take their sins.
I still didn't understand.
I have to take their sins.
They have to take their sins.
Oh, I have to take their sense. That's intelligent. But usually it's a more knee-jerk reaction. Yes, thank you. Who said that? Very good, okay. You're qualified. I'm not qualified, that's what I said. And he said, yes, we know. But you should do it anyway. So I'm thinking about this, I'm not qualified. What a nice excuse it is for any service, actually. Why? Because when you say it, first of all, you don't have to do the service, and second, everyone will tell you how qualified you are. Prabhu, could you wash the dishes? Oh, I'm not qualified. No, you're really good at it, Prabhu. When we say I'm not qualified, what we're really saying is I'm not willing to do that. Yeah? So it isn't about whether we're qualified or not. I mean, if you chant Hare Krishna for 20 years and follow the principles for 20 years, and you know the philosophy and you're willing to teach the philosophy, well, you're qualified. That's the standard that at least exists in our Sangha today. So you're young men mostly. I want to just ask you please to put this into your computer, that this is what happens if you spend your life in Krishna consciousness. Nothing to be forced, but at the right time, in the right situation, then don't be afraid to take this responsibility. Take it when you're in your like 50s and 60s. This is a good time. You know, Srila Prabhupada wanted us all to be gurus. Lord Chaitanya wanted us all to be gurus, isn't it? Amara Gya Guru Hoy Tara Edesh. This was a blanket order. And he said it didn't really matter who you are. Kiba Vipra, Kiba Nyasi, Kiba Shudra, Ye Krishna Tattva Veda, say Guru Hoy. If you know the philosophy, it really doesn't matter what is your birth. It doesn't matter if you know the philosophy. Striya Vaishyas Tata Sudras Tepi Yanti Param Gatim. This is Krishna's admonition, which Srila Prabhupada referred to when these questions came up. So being a guru is not difficult. That was what he said at that time. It is not difficult. You just have to follow your gurus and the vows that you took to your guru. So please keep this in mind, and as you look to live your life in Krishna consciousness, understand in the future you should become a spiritual master yourself. And it doesn't mean you're going to be a big celebrity. It just means you're going to be able to answer inquiries from sincere souls. My dear godbrother Tamal Krishna Maharaj used to say, responsible means able to respond. To be able to respond to people, to answer emails, to direct them. And because so few people are doing it now, they have so many disciples, it's hard to be, responsive to everyone's needs. So they have to organize systems, and that's okay. It was like that with Srila Prabhupada as well. That's legitimate. But some people also want gurus who they can talk to regularly. They want gurus who they can correspond with and ask questions to very easily. And if you have only 10 disciples, this is not so difficult, right? So please consider this in your progression in Krishna consciousness and looking ahead in your future. My daughter-in-law is a physical therapist for the elderly, and she said, she asks her patients, what was the best decade of your life? So these are people often in their 80s or 90s. And she says, almost without fail, they say the same decade. Which one do you think it is? 20 to 30? Wrong. Huh? 10 to 20? Wrong. 50 to 60. 50 to 60, most people look back and say that was the best part of my life. Why? Because at that age you have experience and you have your faculties. In most cases your physical being is not yet starting to deteriorate. That happens generally in 70s and beyond, unless one is, unfortunately ill. But this is the point, that those are our prime years, and these are years in which we can share our experience with others, and we can genuinely help them. To be a guru means to be selfless. To be friendly with all living beings means to be selfless. See, we can't be friendly with everyone if we're thinking how we're going to get some money or exploit them in some way. That isn't friendliness. Right? Genuine friend is selfless. I'm going over time. Can I just one more little bit? Yeah, okay. It's Sunday, right? This is your one day a week that you get off, is that correct? No? Not in the ashram? So when Krishna was out one night playing his flute, all the gopis heard the sound of Krishna's flute, and they all, whatever they were doing, they just dropped and they came running. They were cooking dinner, they left it on the stove burning. They were getting dressed, they ran out the door half dressed. They were nursing their baby, they put him down and left. Whatever they were doing, because they wanted to be with Krishna so much. And they not only wanted to be with Krishna, they wanted to get there before everyone else did. Right? So they all raced out and they all came, and Krishna said, "Oh, what are you doing here?" And, "Oh, you've come to see me? But it's very dangerous to be in the forest at night. There's deadly animals. You should go home now, and I'm sure your families are missing you and wondering where you are." And they just looked at the ground and they didn't budge. So then Krishna said, "All right, so you won't leave, so let's just go." So together they went through the night, Krishna playing his flute, all the gopis with him, and so happy. And then they started thinking, wow, we are so fortunate to be with Krishna. And then Krishna, sensing their pride, he disappeared. Krishna does not like pride in his devotees. If somebody's proud of being a guru, they're not a guru. So Krishna did not like that pride, he disappeared, and then the gopis were almost crazy with separation. They were obsessed with him and acting out his pastimes, and they went around asking the trees, have you seen Krishna? Have you seen Krishna? A little crazy. And then they found footsteps that showed Krishna was with this one girl, but then they saw that Krishna had left this girl also, and then the girl came, yes, I was thinking, oh, he wants to be with me, I'm better than all the others, and he left. I became proud, and then he disappeared. So then together they all were lamenting and feeling separation from Krishna. So look how the consciousness changed from wanting to be alone with Krishna to being together, sharing the pain of separation from Krishna. That's what attracted Krishna to come back. And when he came back, they were so happy, but they were also a little curious. And they didn't want to disrupt the situation. They didn't want to mess it up and have Krishna leave again. But they couldn't help but ask a question. So they asked it in a very tactful way, in an indirect way, third person. Krishna, why is it that some people can't reciprocate love? To which Krishna replied, there are three kinds of people. Some people give love when they are loved. But that's more of a transaction. I love you, you love me. And some people give love even when they are not reciprocated. And those people are either parents or true friends, Maitra, true friends. Even if the love is not reciprocated, they give it very freely. And then there are those who, even when they are loved, do not reciprocate love. And those are either very selfish people or Atmaramas, great yogis who are self-satisfied. And then he said, are you thinking that I'm not reciprocating your love? And he said very beautifully that, no, the problem is I cannot reciprocate your love. Your love is too great for me to reciprocate. Therefore, your love for me will have to be its own reward, its own reciprocation. So the point is to be in the second category where you can give love without reciprocation. This is what it means to be a guru. That we give of ourselves selflessly, just for the purpose of helping others, no ulterior motive whatsoever. As Lord Chaitanya expressed in this mood of Radharani, Ashlishyava pararatam panashtu mama darshana marmahatam karotu va yatavad vidhatu mampato mat prananatas tusa evana para. This is selfless love. Whatever you do, I will accept it. So if we take responsibility for others, as Srila Prabhupada did for the very unqualified people. He was so tolerant, he gave his love, and that's what attracted us to him. That his love was unconditional, like we had never really experienced before in our lives. Yes, the love of a mother is the closest thing to pure love of Krishna. But even the mothers can have ulterior motives sometimes. They would like their children to do certain things in life. Very rarely the mother will say, whatever you want to do is fine with me. But this is actually the epitome of selfless love. So please keep this in your plans for your life. Okay? If you're going to continue in Krishna consciousness, chanting, following the principles, studying, teaching, there will come a time when people will come to you for shelter. And don't be afraid. Don't say, oh, I'm not qualified to give you shelter. Just say, yes, I'll do it because this is my service to my spiritual master. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All right, yes, Prabhu. if anyone needs, we're over time, so if anyone needs to go, please feel free. Otherwise, we'll take a few questions. Yes. Microphone, yes. You had 3 questions last night. Actually, questions are a sign of intelligence. So this is very intelligent. Good questions.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for a wonderful enlightenment. Your presentations are very easily getting into the heart. You are putting it so naturally, and you are giving the essence of Srila Prabhupada's teachings to all of us. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
You presented this concept very amazingly about making a friendship with the mind. We have been singing the bhajans, but we have been always fighting with the mind. And because we want to control the mind, and mind is too obstinate. He just keeps fighting again, back. So today is your presentation, yesterday also you spoke, is very amazing that you elaborated this concept of making friendship with the mind is very, very amazing. I was just finding one concern that in sadhaka stage, what to do to make sure that while making friendship with mind, I don't get carried by my own desires and past bad habits.
Yes, because the mind is the repository of all bad habits. And so it's bringing them up. Why don't you do this? Why don't you do this? And the mind is also very, very tricky. Say, oh, this situation exists. It's not very noble to be in this ashram where people are not clean. I should be better. I'll be more Krishna conscious outside or something like that. It'll give all kinds of excuses. So this is where, like we were discussing last night, just the determination has to be there. That, I have taken this vow, I've taken this vrat, vyavasyatmika buddhir ekeha kurunandana. This is my consideration. How will I please Krishna? Not bahushaka hinantascha, the many, many other possible considerations. And the mind will be very expert in presenting all kinds of reasons why we should not serve Krishna, or we should not serve Krishna in this particular way, we should serve Krishna in this other way. Okay? So this isn't to say, to make friends with the mind is not to indulge the mind. To make friends with the mind means to recognize that we are fools. That we're here wanting to serve Krishna and our mind is all over the universe. How foolish is that? Anyway, this is how I am. Krishna, you please take me. Just like Sanatana Goswami had a little deity of Madan Mohan that he kept, and he was very poor, so he had nothing but a little flour and water, so he would mix it and make a chapati and offer to his deity. That's all he had. And finally one day Madan Mohan said, could you at least get some salt? So I like this pastime because when we offer ourselves to Krishna, to Gaura Nitai, to our spiritual master, we offer ourselves as we are. And sometimes what we are is not a very pretty thing. We are ostensibly trying to follow Krishna consciousness and our mind is all over the universe, right? And so what a foolish situation. Anyway, here I am, a fool with a mind so restless, so uncontrolled, and here I am, I'm not going away. I'm offering myself to you like a chapati with no salt. That's all I have. So you have to take it. Then we can get a little bossy with Krishna. Look, here I am, this is my state of being, you have to take me because I'm chanting. Okay? If we're puffed up, we're thinking, oh, I'm a great devotee, then we're indulging the mind, you see. But if we actually recognize I'm a fool, then we can offer it, then Krishna will accept. The Prabhupada said that we should always remain a fool before our spiritual master. So it takes humility to recognize that our mind is out of control. And it takes determination to do what we know is right anyway. Okay? Yes, Prabhu. How many questions this time?
I had 3 only, but I can ask two later. After end of all questions, personally, I may ask one question I would like first now. So thank you so much, Prabhuji, for sharing wonderful realizations. So this question I had regarding this lamentation. So yesterday we were discussing about lamentation is a mode of ignorance. So Prabhuji, there are situations like either we have college engagements or we'll be in jobs. So these kind of like you have come or other senior devotees come, we may not be able to be personally present there. So then this kind of lamentation comes that we are missing out, or so those kind of things go on, like fear of missing out happens in this situation, that we are not getting the association, how pure devotee association is very purifying, all those things, but we are in a situation where we cannot get that. So it seems like our Krishna consciousness is jeopardized. So how to see?
No, that's very, very good. This is like separation. This is an advanced feeling in Krishna consciousness. If we're lamenting that we can't be with the Vaishnavas, then this is pure devotion. It's a very good thing. It's not the mode of ignorance. Lamentation in the mode of ignorance means it's like obsessing with the past. You see? Obsessing with the past. And I wish I'd done this, I shouldn't have done that. Then we're just looking backwards and not dealing with the present. Because we all make mistakes. And so lamenting over those mistakes is just wasted energy, you see. Sometimes we become depressed. Depression is an expression of this kind of looking backwards too much. Of course, there is such a thing as congenital conditions that can cause depression. So that has to be understood. But the common depression that we all experience, thinking about the past, regretting what has happened in our lives, that's the mode of ignorance. Whatever has happened. Today we have an opportunity to serve with whatever energy we have. And if we can't be with the devotees and we're lamenting that, that's beautiful. That's a good thing.
But still there is lamentation which is eating up, or we are, if we are engaged in a job like 8 hours, 10 hours in a day. So it's like there is this, we could have done more service, but we have responsibilities which we need to take care of.
No, there's two things. In the past, I could have done more service. That's the mode of ignorance. What I have is today. And today, I really wish I could be with the devotees. That's spiritual. That is separation. The gopis were lamenting, right? It's like Ramachandra Puri, when he came to his spiritual master, Madhavendra Puri, at the end of his life. And Madhavendra Puri was saying, where is Govinda? Right? What? Hidina Daya, yes. And his foolish disciple said, Gurudev, you're lamenting. Brahmabhuta prasanatma nasochati nakakshati. And Madhavendra Puri said, get out of here, go away. That's advanced. If we wish we could be with the devotees better. My godbrother Tamal Krishna Maharaj was once approached by a lady who was a married woman. She was, her children were grown. And her husband was not very interested in Krishna consciousness, but she very much wanted to be with the devotees. So she said, Maharaj, should I leave now? Should I leave my family and move into the temple so I can be with devotees? And Maharaj said very wisely, he said, no. He said, better you stay with your family and hanker to be with devotees than to be in the temple and hanker to be with your family. So Krishna puts us all in various situations. Look at Srila Prabhupada. He could not actively serve the mission for decades, or just on the side while he was maintaining his family. But he never lost that desire. He cherished that desire. I have experienced that also in my life, that something I want to do, a service I wanted to do, I couldn't do for almost 30 years, and then I got another chance to do it. And it's been wonderful, best part of my life. So sometimes to cherish a desire may take much time. But this is why patience is also part of the recommendation from Rupa Goswami, isn't it? Okay. So if you're feeling that way, that's a good thing. If you stop feeling that way at work, that's a bad thing. The devotees. You see? Okay. Let's see if somebody else would like to. Yes, sir. You're listening very. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, we are always actually confusing in heart and brain. Sometimes whenever there is some problem, someone say, ask from your mind, someone say, what your heart says. So, where our soul actually occupy, is it in heart or is it in mind? We always have confusion. Like Arjuna was there in battlefield. He says, all are my grandparents, my teachers, how I can go for war with them? Then Krishna says, no. What I am saying, go for war. It is your duty to...
He was saying it's your duty to fight.
Yeah.
And then he says, and you're not fighting for yourself, you're fighting for a higher purpose. And then he says, so do whatever you want to do. See? And
So, there is always a question.
Yes.
What our heart says, what our mind says,
right.
What we are supposed to
The lesson of Bhagavad Gita is, yes, the lesson of Bhagavad Gita, Prabhu, is to find out what does Krishna want us to do, and do that. That is our choice. If we do what the mind says or the heart says, we may be acting on sentiment or speculation. But if we find out clearly what does Krishna want us to do, and we do that, that is above the mind and the heart. And then, when we do that, the heart becomes actually fulfilled, because we're pleasing Krishna. Instead of serving our own mind and senses, instead of serving something material, we are serving a higher purpose, Krishna's desire. How do we know what is Krishna's desire? For that, we need the spiritual master. Okay?
Prabhuji, actually, there is some free will.
Yes.
Actually,
always.
Actually, what we say, there is destiny. You have to act according to Krishna will.
Yes.
But is there some free will? What
Yes.
I can actually do?
We can act according to Krishna's will, or we can act according to our own will. That's free will. Krishna was not holding a gun in Arjuna, you better fight. Krishna says very nicely, if you want to please me, then you will fight. And if you don't, you do whatever you want to do. I've explained it, now you do what you want to do. But one gentleman told me, this is my favorite verse from Bhagavad Gita, what's that? Where Krishna says, do whatever you want to do.
Then, what is where actually destiny acted? Because there is you have some destiny, you act according to God will. You are actually puppet.
I'll tell you what.
You have some free will also.
Always we have free will. I think it's good if you ask one of the senior devotees to explain this in more depth, because this is part of our progression in Krishna consciousness, to understand that Krishna is the supreme controller, and our free will allow us to accept him in that way. Then we become happy, but it has to be experienced. See, in other words, we can't wait. Well, I'll surrender when Krishna desires. See, I'll surrender when destiny takes me to that point. No. We have the free will right now to surrender or not surrender, right this moment. All the time, always. And that's an ongoing thing. That's what makes spiritual life ecstatic. That we are surrendering to Krishna every moment, every day, every situation. What does Krishna want? It's not a static thing. Okay, I've surrendered to Krishna. All done. Okay, next. Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you for the wonderful class, Prabhu. Prabhu, while progressing together, you told like the birds flaps together and progress together. So while we are progressing with devotees, so how do we not look to the any of the faults or something and better focus on ourselves?
No. This idea of focusing on ourselves is actually kind of misleading. If we focus on ourselves, it's hard to then focus on others. See, Krishna consciousness is the opposite of self-consciousness, isn't it? So we're thinking, how advanced am I? Should I do this? Should I do this? Then we're self-conscious. So the antithesis of that is serving Krishna, and we serve Krishna by Yeah, serving the devotees. So if we're in the service mood and appreciating other devotees, then this will give us a lift, you see. Devotees, devotees have faults and the devotees have good qualities. And the good qualities are outstanding because they're devotees. So one good way to appreciate devotees is go out and distribute books and associate with the non-devotees for a while. And you come back and the devotees look pretty good. Right? So another thing that undermines our appreciation of devotees is prajalpa. Right? Has anyone ever come to you and say, "Don't tell anyone this, but..." Do you ever hear that? Or, "I'm not supposed to tell anyone, but..." This is like a big sign that, here's some prajalpa. So what do you do if you're talking with another devotee and they start criticizing another devotee? If we just listen, then we are committing an offense. And that will undermine our appreciation for the other devotee. So we have to do something different than just listen. We have to either leave, say, "Oh, excuse me, I need to go." You don't have to say, "You're talking prajalpa." No, just excuse me, "Oh, I'm sorry, I need to go." Or, which is very fun, you can say something nice about the person who's being criticized. "Oh, such and such is always doing this and that." "Yeah, yes, but didn't he lead a nice kirtan this morning?" You just counteract it in that way. And if you really want to get strong about it, you can tell a little bit of a lie. You can say, "Oh, really? That's funny you're saying that because he was saying such nice things about you." One way or the other, don't listen to prajalpa. That will help us keep our appreciation intact. Okay? If we appreciate the devotees and make friends with the devotees, then we're in very good shape. Okay, anything else? All right. Any questions, Prabhu? No? All right, well, I'm just absolutely stunned by the beautiful temple here and by all of you wonderful devotees. It was a bit of an endeavor to get here, but I'm very glad I could come, even for a short visit. I hope to visit again sometime in the future if you will give me your blessings. Thank you. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Radha Madhava ki jai.